Faithful Responders consists of 2 deputies and 2 firefighters with nearly 40 combined years of service as first responders. Scotty, Jonathan, Clint, and Jacob invite you to listen as they discuss various issues that first responders deal with in their daily lives as well as on the job. The crazy schedules, training, mandatory OT, and the extra gigs provide little time for family, let alone going to or committing to a church. Their prayer is that this will be something used to help keep you encouraged and equipped in your faith. So sit on back, but don't fall asleep. Yes, that means you, firefighters. And as always, stay safe.
Welcome back, y'all. We are glad you decided to give us another listen. But we're back here today. We've got Sergeant Vaughn decided to come back and join us again. He graced us with his presence last time, but he's graced us with his presence again. So we're glad you're here. But we're gonna talk today a little bit about suffering and why discuss why we see that so much as first responders. I know for me personally, starting out about 8 years ago, as a first responder, but that's kind of early on in my career. That's a question that kept coming up internally. Was just why am I seeing so much suffering? Why is there nothing I can do about it? Why do I keep coming to these calls after something's happened, and I thought maybe I was put in this career, called to this career to help stop some of that. So why is God allowing me to go through this?
It's hard to remind yourself, hey, people aren't going to call us on their best days. We're not getting called to get us be the happy birthdays and the whatever wonderful things are going on in people's lives. They don't think of us then, which is good. We want people to always have those wonderful things. We don't want them to need us. But when they do need us, it's normally the worst day of somebody's life. I remember people saying that in the academy coming up, this is somebody's worst day, and that's why it's important for us to train and know how to do our job well, is because on somebody's worst day, they need us to be able to perform, to be able to show up and mitigate whatever they have going on. And it's easy for that to bog us down, I think, because like you said, we're constantly going on somebody's worst day, whatever that may be. And I think it's easy to let that kind of eat at you a little bit, And I will say in my career, I've seen some good things too. I've seen a lot of good, but I don't know that outweighs the suffering that I've unfortunately seen. And then I think with your own life, everybody's going to go through different things. We're going to go through hardships in our own life, and it seems like it just makes that seem even harder at times, But unfortunately, that's just kind of the nature of the beast with the career that we have, that we've found ourselves in. That people are calling us on their worst day.
Yeah, I think too. For me, it just raised a lot of questions on. I know that I say multiple times and tell myself, and I know, that God, that He's sovereign, that He's in control, that He's a good God. But, going back to that thought of, why is there so much suffering going on? And if you're not a first responder and you're listening to this, there's so much that you don't see. So that's just kind of, I guess for me starting out, going from not being a first responder to being a first responder, like just that jump that, is kind of like I don't know what you call it, but just like a culture shock almost about, of how much I was starting to witness. And so for me, it started to raise questions. Well, why did God, if He is a good God, why does He allow this to happen? And so, I started doing some digging for myself, and just, I think it goes back to the beginning, really. When I think about it, and when I started doing some research and like, in the scriptures, but like going like the very beginning to Adam and Eve in the garden, they're kind of the ones. It started with them. They had that choice to either obey God or disobey God, and when they chose to disobey Him, that's when sin entered the world. And
Thanks a lot.
yeah,
I think,
but I think that kind of helped me, put it into perspective of
Kind of a consequence.
it's kind of a consequence of sin entering in the world. And
what God taught me, again, when I lay before God every morning, I still get up at 3:30 now and lay before God because I want to be taught by. As Paul said, I went to the desert, and now I want God to teach me because I've had the Bible, I read it all, I got a degree. I want to know from Him. And all I got was, God said, my people suffer because of lack of understanding. Jesus came. When we was baby, He said, when I formed you in the mother's womb, babies come out happy, they're not judging, they're just happy. They know God, they came from God. In your environment, people get to teach them, you good, you this, you that, you boy, you girl, you black, you white, you like this group, you don't like that group. We separate them from God. And from what God told me, there's two types of people: those that are in oneness with Christ, those that are not. If you're not in oneness with Christ, then you're trying to understand things through the world view. That should tell me I am not in a relationship with God. I had to go back to get in a relationship so He can explain things to me and take care of me. And I just see a lot of people who don't. You may go to church, you may have a Bible, but if you look at suffering as, what did I do wrong? To me, it's just like you said, it may be that you stepped away from that relationship. You trying to do it your way.
I think you're listening to the wrong voice at that point, because
It's just like God showed me. If I want to drive a car down the road, I can drive all day long. All of a sudden, I start crashing. What's going on, Lord? What happened? Well, you're driving too fast. You're running off the curb. If you just stay in the lane, drive the speed, you can drive as long as you want to. But you got to understand, when I crash, it's something you have separated yourself from. And for me, with even my journey, when my mother, that's how I understood what my mother was going through. It was God's choice. It was not my choice. I couldn't control that. The day she took her last breath, I was there and watched her. For a moment, I started to tear up, and God said, to be absent from the body, to be present with me, do you believe that? I said, yes, sir. He said, where am I? I said, Lord, you in me. If I am in you, your mother's in me, where's the moment? What did you lose? I never cried a day since then. Now, I don't think it's wrong for people to cry. I don't think it's wrong for people to go to the grave. I've never been back to the grave site since 2006. Because I know that what I was in love with was the spirit that was in my mom's body, and I didn't lose that. That gave me joy, the joy that God gave me. Nobody can take that away. But if I look at the world through the worldly view, I see a lot of sorrow. I stay in sorrow. And you don't really have a God understanding when you're looking at things, why this, why that. Jesus looked at it, what did He say about the people? They don't know what they do. He came back to get us into a relationship. A lot of us rejected that. The church rejected that in some sense. So when you reject Christ, what are you going to end up with? You can't get an understanding of what's going on.
I think that's huge. I think it's like a lot of it's your mindset. If your mind's in the right place, if you know going into a situation where you're going to witness some kind of suffering, because you could be a blessing to the people that are going through a hardship. And if you go and you're, like you mentioned before in our last episode, if you can go and be an example of God's love to those people, you could completely change their life, and you could completely change that day for them.
Think about Amy Copeland. Go to Children's Hospital. How can people who are suffering, we call, could be so happy? You lost your legs, you lost your arm, and now you out there. She's the joy. You see that? How do you do that? How do you have that joy when you lost your legs, you lost your arms? Because you have a relationship with God.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's the only way.
Absolutely. So I think that's why it's so important for us to have that relationship, that firm foundation to stand on, especially in the careers that we've chosen, because there's going to be time, and just in life in general, it doesn't matter your career really, but especially our career, I think it could be a little bit more challenging at times for folks, but And that's why it's important to have that foundation, that, you know, you got to have that relationship, and you got to listen to the right voices, because we all know, and I know we've mentioned it before, that Satan, he's a great deceiver, and he's going to use what he can. He's going to get in there and he's going to use that suffering that could be potentially, you could be a light into somebody's life. You could be an example of God's love. But if you let Satan get in there and put that wrong voice in your head and you're listening to the wrong thing, maybe you're not that light. Maybe you're not that example of God's love that you should be and that you want to be. You know, it's easy to listen to that wrong voice. It's easy to, they call him the great deceiver for a reason, you know, because he knows what he's doing. He's going to use every opportunity he has. And just the world that we live in is broken. It's just a broken world, unfortunately, that we live in. And I also think that sometimes God will use some type of suffering to test our faith, to build that relationship. You know, we may not be where we want to be. We may not be where he wants us to be. We may not have that relationship with him. And sometimes I think that he will, you know, they'll test our faith a little bit. And I think that it's for our good. You know, he's wanting to build that relationship. He's wanting to get closer to us. And we gotta listen to the right voices.
Stolen about it. We would believe it. We didn't think it's fairy tale. Paul, he went to prison and beaten, yet he still had joy. He was bringing people into a relationship with Christ. Why wasn't he suffering? Why wasn't he complaining? Why didn't the Hebrew boys complain? Why did Daniel complain? I'm serving God. You gonna put me in line then? The Hebrew boys, hey, don't enslave me. I'm still gonna trust me. That is the evidence of how we want to be, and we can't. That's a relationship with God, no matter what happened. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking at the circumstances. I know who holds my hand, no matter what I'm going through.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was kind of since the beginning. I mean, like all throughout the whole Bible. I mean, Old Testament, New Testament, include everything. Suffering is a part of the Bible. Suffering is a part of the gospel. When you look at Jesus' life, I mean, that was, I think, even before he went, you know, even before he went to the cross, he was suffering in a sense of, kind of struggling with
Going against tradition.
Struggling with, he prayed and asked God, Lord, if there's another way, so I think there was some sense of struggle or suffering in his mind
think about his mother
before he went to the cross. And
she
so,
suffered.
We
wouldn't accept Mary today.
Yeah.
Oh no, you had a baby with who? The Holy Spirit, sure. But think about what she must have suffered way back then. Yes, she stayed firm to what the God told her. It's part of life. I know it's hard to accept when people are going through,
Right.
but I think God is trying to get us to a position where we can still be aligned to God and love on people. No, I don't have to explain. I don't know why this happened, but I know who can help you get through it. I don't know why you're dealing with this, but I know who can help you.
Absolutely.
Deal with this, get through this.
And that's incredibly important. I know we've mentioned before that we're concerned with just the first responder community in general. Just we hear of suicide. It's all too common these days, and we hate to hear that. And I think all of us can relate to somebody that we either knew of or knew personally that may have made the decision. And I hate to hear stuff like that. But if they had the right mindset and they had that relationship, where would they be now? And who knows? Like you say, we may never know why certain things happen, but we know who's here to help us get through it. And so that's why I want if you're out there listening and you're going through some kind of struggle and you're having doubts or whatever, just know that God is there for you. You're never too far gone. There's nothing that you can do to make you not deserve, salvation through Jesus Christ. He's already won that battle. Jesus Christ has already made that sacrifice and won that battle for us. There's nothing to really worry about as far as that goes. Don't ever think that you're too far gone, or don't ever think that no one cares, because there are people out there that care. And God cares. He loves you. He absolutely loves you. And I know that you mentioned earlier when we were talking, we weren't recording, but there was somebody that you knew personally that had committed suicide.
Yeah, and due to the fact that he said he was doing well that day, and it looked like he was doing good. But yet he was struggling internally. And from that point on, I prayed to God, Lord, don't let another person be hurting, and I don't know about it. And that's why God said, you can't run around judging people, because you're judging their pain. because you're looking at what's going on with them. But love will draw these people to you. Say, "Can I talk to you about something?" You know, and I think that's what women deal with kids, or women deal with first responders. And first responders, to me, that it's hard to get to because we feel like we're going to be judged by telling people what we're going through. I want to get to a point where find somebody to trust. I tell my children, I don't care who it is, find somebody you can talk to, you feel comfortable you can talk to, because the answer is in you, but you have to feel like I can talk to somebody about what I'm dealing with. And I think it's really tough for our community now to be able to do that.
I know that you mentioned when we were talking earlier about something that I hadn't thought about because I'm not in that particular line of work, but you talk about police officers. If they're going through some kind of anxiety or depression or anything, you may be hesitant to tell anybody about that because now, like you mentioned, this is not a concern that I'd ever really considered. But now, if you do kind of open up and show that vulnerability that you have something going on, you're reaching out for help, and now you're worried about, hey, are they gonna think I'm unfit for duty, or are they gonna think that I can't perform my job, or now you're concerned about, hey, are they going to take away my livelihood? I've got a family to provide for. That's something I never would have thought. I know as men in general, we think that we got to be strong. We got to, we can't show weakness. We can't ask for help. And a lot of us as first responders are that way, like we talked about before. We think that we're supposed to be helping people. We don't need to be asking people for help. But that's a perspective that I've never even thought about is, hey, I need help, but I'm scared that I'm going to jeopardize my family's, making ends meet, providing for my family. That's something I've never even considered. And I just want, if anybody's out there, reach out to somebody. It's not worth you trying to take it on by yourself. Even if you want to reach out to us, I know that we talk about that all the time. We're always a listening ear. We can be anonymous. If you need to talk to somebody, that's what we're here for. If you don't feel comfortable talking to somebody that you know for fear of anything like that, please reach out, because we would much rather you reach out than going down the wrong road and doing the unspeakable. I can't reiterate that enough, and that was kind of not really mind blowing, but just it was kind of interesting to me to see a different perspective that I've never thought of. Because as a firefighter, I'm not. Yeah, I might if I don't want to ask for help just because I don't. I'm prideful, fortunately, that to my own fault, I don't want to ask for help. But I've never even considered, hey, I don't need to ask for help because it could potentially jeopardize my family. I've never been in that mindset, and I can't imagine, having that weight on you as well. Like, hey, I've got this family I got to provide for, but I need the help. You may be thinking that, but man, I don't know how else to. I can't. Both of y'all could speak on that more than I could, but I just can't. I just kind of hurt my heart a little bit to think, man, I've got that extra weight on them that I never even considered.
I could talk about supervisors. When I came here, I didn't want to be promoted. I didn't want to rank. He said, well, no, I don't want to rank. Please just let me, because I want to help people. And we have, a lot of times we look at supervisors, I can't talk to them. Can't tell them what I'm dealing with. All they interested in me coming to work, doing my job. I said, I don't want that rank because I want them to see me as somebody they can talk to. The major finally talked to me, but he's a minister, I'm a minister. A point we've got to take the titles off of supervisors and realize we're God's servants. The people he put in our hands are for us to take care of. They ought to be able to talk to us without being condemned, without saying, hey, let me take your weapon, let me see you to a psychiatrist. They shouldn't fear us. How are we going to teach them to help somebody else if they're afraid of us, the supervisor? That's what has to change. We got them all around us needing help, but I keep talking to him because all they want to know is my shoes shine. Is I got the right uniform on. Is my uniform clean? That's all I hear. That's all I see. Is all you concerned about and me showing up at work. You don't care about my wife. See, you don't care about my children. You don't care about I'm barely making ends meet. That's not your concern. But I got to deal with that. And that's real.
Yeah, for sure. I was just about to say, and Clint, you and I have talked about it too, man. Like we struggled with, using like alcohol as like a medication, you know, and when we refuse to open up to somebody and just try to, whether, I mean, I just mentioned that because that's exactly what Clint and I talked about, but like it got to a point where, I mean, we both admitted to each other that it was, we were kind of flirting with that line of, that's what I'm using it for.
Right.
Instead of opening up and talking to somebody. And for me, you know, something as simple as Clint just coming to me, you know, and just us having a conversation about that almost allowed freedom for me to be honest with him and tell him that I was struggling with the same thing. And you never know, like, if what I'm trying to say is, if, you know, whether it's a fellow first responder or, you know, for us, that's what it was. But if you're not in our line of work, if it's something else you're dealing with, you know, find somebody that you can relate to and open up to them and be honest with them, because you never know what that person's going through too. They might be going through the exact same thing you are.
But you'll never know if you don't talk to
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we really encourage you to talk to somebody. Don't keep it bottled up, because that's when Satan gets in your thoughts. He likes to get you alone. He likes to isolate you. And
You feel like, yeah, it just, you know, it starts out as something like, you know, I'm just drinking beer because I enjoy a beer. And then next thing you know, it's almost like you're looking for comfort somewhere. You're never going to find it there.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you're looking for comfort somewhere like that. You know what I mean? And it may not be something that you even realize that you're doing. It's easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
You know, something that I never did want to talk to my wife about anything that I saw at work or anything like that. I would bring it home.
right.
And you know, I know some guys, there's a lot of firefighters that are married to nurses, you know, and they're very similar careers. They see things too, you know, and I would imagine, this is just from outside looking in, that it would be a little bit easier for them to talk about stuff like that because they have some kind of experience. My mom's a nurse, and I've always felt more comfortable talking to her about stuff like that than I have my wife. But I've started trying to be a little bit more open with my wife. I may not tell her all the details of everything. I may not even tell her everything, you know, but if there's something going on, or we ran a call, you know, whatever the case may be, I try to be a little bit more open with her. And it's not necessarily, she may never understand what it's like to run that call. She may never understand, but she understands that I'm going through something, and that if I'm a little bit short today or whatever, it's nothing, that I'm not upset with her or anything like that. And I found that's been big. My parents ended up getting a divorce when I was, you know, a senior in high school. And one of the things my dad told me after that, one of the big pieces of advice he told me was communication is key. You know, you have to have that communication in your marriage. And it scared me for a while, you know, looking into getting married and stuff. My wife now and I had been dating for a while, and I was terrified of marriage. You know, and my parents had a pretty amicable divorce, but it still was enough to terrify me. You know, man, is this really what I want? Am I really ready for this? Turns out I was, and she was the perfect girl for me. You know, and I'll never deserve her. You know, she's amazing, but you know, I kind of halfway lost my train of thought here. I do this a lot these days.
You get
You know, get off. Anyways, I say all that to say,
making up for Scotty not being here.
yeah. But where I was headed was, you know, that communication is key. You have to have that in your relationship. And the times with my testimony that I shared, that I was going through the tougher times of my life and my career, I never talked to her about any of it because I didn't expect her to know, and I didn't want her to know. But I believe it would have been beneficial for her to know, just to know, hey, he's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be any details or anything like that. So,
That reminded me, I've always felt like I didn't want to put the burden of what I go through with my family. So I was always talking about the kids, my wife, but I never felt like I should talk about it. So when I hit bottom, went through my depression, like God spoke to me. He said, now I've been married 45 years, now I'm going to 46. He said, you keep saying I brought your wife. Me and my wife married after about 2 weeks. She said 1 month. I don't know how she was here. That's what we know with a God thing. That's not even a question. He said, you say I brought your wife to you. I said, yes, sir. He said, why don't you listen to her when I speak through her? That's my best friend. We share everything. And there's a point, we get up at 3:30 in the morning, me and her, the best time, boy, we get on the treadmill and we talk for an hour. The best hour of our life. There's a point, there's a certain time, like, it's the best time when you both can be free. But God brings us partners and we don't see them as that. I'm a man, she's a woman. No, that is God's child. You are God's child. You are God's children. You're supposed to share with one another, but I never had that understanding because my parents divorced. I saw fighting all the time. I saw my dad was an alcoholic. So, and I always had the men, you keep everything inside of you. You don't, you handle things. But yet, together you handle things, all things, all things. God shows up in a body. He's just not out the blue air. That is God in your house. And if you can't learn to love and share that, how you gonna do it somewhere else? We're supposed to be taught at the base. You're supposed to be taught in the house how to love God. And then you can easily go outside and do it. How you go outside and say, I'm gonna be loved out here, but I'm not gonna get along. And I got struggling in my house. No, that's false. That's not real. Real love starts at the hardest part. Knowing that that lady is God in the flesh. You are God in the flesh. You are equal. There's no man's choice and women's choice. You're supposed to share. And when I learned that, man, right now, I'm having the best relationship. And we're free. We're really enjoying life now. Because all the other people, sometimes when you hit rock bottom, where are my friends? I had all my church friends. Where'd they go? All my men. Because I would talk to them, and is how things going, Brother Vaughn, everything I'm going through. So, oh man, you got it, man. You got it. They didn't understand. I couldn't talk to them about it because they or the pastor may say, well, call me sometime. Well, I know they weren't real. That's just a figure of speech. But I think it was God's purpose for him to say, no. I got everything you need right there.
Like you said, I don't know y'all's story, but it sounded like you said y'all got married after how long of knowing each other?
About 2 weeks, maybe. Yeah, 2 days.
That was meant to be there.
2 days.
But I actually,
Y'all been married 46 years, you said?
45.
Going on.
That's no coincidence to me that he put her in your life.
No.
And like you said, God puts wonderful people around us to help us learn how to love and help us to show love and help us to love one another. You know,
Another thing, we never have to know how to help other people who's going through, not judge. Like I said, hey, you like talking to someone on alcohol or whatever, that is kind of like, that alcohol may keep me from committing suicide today. So I don't judge that. Whatever you're doing now, it may be another way to get through today.
right.
Until you find somebody that can help you get through that. If I don't do this today, I won't make it. I heard people say, I gotta have this. So if you say, well, you know, God don't like that or whatever, you putting fuel on my fire. You're not helping me solve my problem. Now I'm feeling more guilty about what I'm doing because people in the church or the pastor or the deacon said, I'm wrong. I need to go to church and get saved, stop drinking. It's not that easy. Can you love me where I am? Do I have to change for you to love me? Do I have to dress up and put a tie on and say I got it all together before you can love me? So we got to go to them and love them where they're at. Even if they're homeless, I still love you. You don't have to change for me. I love you where you are. And I think that's what God called us to do.
I think that, and this is just my 2 cents, but I think that a lot of people are, when it comes to going to church and stuff like that, they're hesitant to go because people are going to tell them, no, what you're doing is wrong. You got to straighten up. Blah, blah, blah. And I think it comes from a good place, and the majority of the times, people that are Christians that have that relationship with God, they want it for people. They want them to have that relationship. They want them to get out of whatever's bringing them down, whether it be anxiety, depression, addiction, whatever it is. They want that for them. They want them to get out of it. But it looks like you're trying to tell them, like
It's
you
just like
said,
how would you do if you go to the doctor and you walk in? He said, Clint, you need to stop doing what you're doing, brother. Get yourself together. You know what? You'll be all right once you stop. Wait a minute, doc. You hadn't even listened to me yet. I want to talk. I want to tell you what I'm going through. I think that sometimes we talk before we listen. And people saying, all they're going to do is judge me, tell me what I need to do. And yet they don't even know what I'm going through. You don't even know what my problem is. I wouldn't talk to you if you don't know if you're going to judge what I'm doing, because I'm doing it now just to make it, just to get through.
Yeah, I think the whole like just the reason I brought up the alcohol and you know it maybe that maybe some other substance you know or addiction or whatever that you're trying to use to you know self medicate my but you know I brought it up just saying you know that just from my perspective that was when I was kind of flirting with that line it was like I realized that it was I was using it to try and to help ease the pain, but all I was doing was numbing it
Yeah.
for a little bit, and then the next night I'm sitting right there again next to the bottle, like just in this, feeling the same way I was the night before, you know. And so for me, the pain didn't get any easier until I started having conversations like with Clint and with other, you know, I've got several other close friends that are in, you know, police work that I trusted to talk to and talk those issues out with, and that's when I felt like healing began, and when the pain did, you know, got easier
You
or
feel like
got
you're not there by yourself. I had a friend of mine that he trusted me enough. He said his struggle was sex. He was a minister. He, man, you know, I'm down here, you know, in this motel, and my wife, you know, been sick for 2 years, and man, you know what? I'm thinking it's bothered me. I got, you know, these ladies are after me. He said, I'm thinking about going to stay tonight, and I laughed at him. He said, what you laugh at? I said, man, you just tickled me. I said, you saying it's been 2 years, and you gonna go stay all night? No, you may stay 5 minutes. You know, but we made a joke out of it. He said, man, I'm going to bed. But I'm saying I didn't judge him what he was struggling with. I still let him out, love him.
yeah, for sure.
And so he said that set me free. He said, I need that. I need somebody to run these things by when I'm struggling. I said, that's all we need. We need one another because I'm gonna struggle, you gonna struggle. We just got to let God tell us how to get through it because it ain't so bad that we can't get through it. All of us gonna go through something.
Oh yeah,
And you're gonna take something, whether it be sex or whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, something, spending money, buying stuff, there's something going to grab you to try to get you some therapy until you get into that relationship with God. We as brothers are supposed to be there to listen to that and not judge it.
yeah, for sure. Try to close this out, but I wanted to share this scripture came to mind when we were talking about suffering being a part of the scripture and being a part of the gospel. And really, when you think about it, I mean, you know, God's story is still continuing day by day. I mean, it's not, it didn't end with the New Testament.
Right.
It's still growing today. I think we've talked about that on a previous episode, but basically, I just want to close this out by talking about and just sharing the scripture about, you know, shifting our perspective from the here and now and what we see, you know, in the world and the suffering that we see and maybe experience for ourselves, but shifting that focus from that to eternity, and whether it's something going on, you know, in your regular life, like in your marriage, or whether it's something going on at the job, you know, in your job and your career. When you're thinking about those things, think about them in light of eternity. Some scripture that came to mind thinking about that is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16 through 18. It says, Paul writing to the church at Corinth, but it says, therefore, we do not give up, even though our outer person is being destroyed, our inner person is being renewed day by day. For our momentary light affliction is producing for us an absolutely incomparable eternal weight of glory. So we do not focus on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal.
Man.
I know it's kind of easy to say all that and harder to do it, but because when you're in the here and now, when you're in going through life, I mean, it's right there. I mean, sometimes it'll hit you in the face and knock you down, but I mean, if you have that eternal perspective always in mind, that I mean, then I think you're gonna be all right. You'll be able to get through it, you know, and you'll know that God is there with you through it. And in the end, we're going to be with him in glory anyway.
Yeah.
So,
And one thing I like to say on that, I have perspective now, and I think you can be with God even in the body. And what I mean by that is, when Paul said, I've been arrested, I am no longer I who live, but Christ lived in me. To me, what he was saying that I can be with Christ now. And here, I don't have to wait to get out of this body to be in a relationship with Christ. To me, I think that's our goal, is to daily try to get in that relationship where we understand God and God understands us. And even the suffering then is not as painful. You understand? What he said, I'm suffering for Christ. Well, there is a purpose in why I'm going through this. Because the only way you can suffer, anything you attach to is going to cause you suffering. If you attach to your body, it's going to cause, somebody call you and say, hey, Clint, man, I just want to let you know, I'll never call you again. You say, okay, you know who it is, no big deal. But if somebody you connect with, Jake called to Clint, I don't want to talk to them. You say, what's going on? What's wrong? Because you attached. You have that relationship. That's why people struggle with money and things and stuff, because they get attached. But if I get attached to Christ, the things and stuff don't matter. I got a better understanding. Like, hey, God gave me one, he'll give me another one. I'm not saying that with people, but God helped make it a lot easier to accept. I could easily accept my mother's death a lot better than I could if I didn't have that relationship with God. It would be to the point I probably wouldn't be here today. If I didn't have that relationship, I wouldn't be here. I was too attached. And I think that's what hurts, is attachment. Well, we should be attached to Christ. Daily, we should strive to get into a relationship with God. So these things are going to come. The floods are going to come. Tribulation is going to come. But that's okay. Let it come. As long as I got God with me, we can weather the storm.
amen. Yeah.
Don't point at me. I can't say it. Yeah, I can't follow up that. Incredible. I hope that you guys are listening to this meeting, because I've enjoyed being able to talk with you today. I feel like I've taken a lot from it. And the last episode we had was the same way. I think that you bring an incredible perspective to the table. I hope that you guys have enjoyed what he's had to say, because I surely have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Sarge, for joining us again, man. We appreciate it. Yeah, dude. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again for joining us and listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and please reach out to us if you have any questions, or if you have anything you want to talk about. We're here to listen, and we're here. We can interact with you through that email, that respondcommunity@gmail.com, or if you can find us on Facebook through our Faithful Responders Facebook page. We can interact with you there. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We love you guys, and that's why we're here. We're here and doing this for you guys that are listening. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We love you. We care for you. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.